What's up, guys? I hope you're having a beautiful day. Today we're going to be talking about fast heart rate with your anxiety. Okay, go ahead and smash the like button down below if you're ready to kick anxiety in the butt. Leave me a comment down there. Let me know if this is something that you struggle with. It definitely was a symptom that I struggled with pretty much throughout the entirety of my anxiety years, but in particular the first 2 to 2.5 years when I really dealt with the cardiophobia thing. That was when my heart rate was just a huge problem for me. It was always super fast, always had me nervous that I was having heart attacks. I had a heart problem, made me just feel uncomfortable. It was often associated with many other symptoms, but I'm going to give you my experience, go over my heart rate numbers. I'm not a huge number guy with this. Like, you got to get away from checking and being obsessed with seeing what your pulse is, but for some initial reassurance, I'm going to give you my numbers because I've been there, I've done this, I've overcome anxiety. So a big part of this channel is me being able to relate with you guys. Okay, if you're new to the channel, you need to hit that subscribe button, okay? I have hundreds of free anxiety videos for you to check out. If you want to do coaching where I can try to help you out of this mess, the email is down below. There's other resources and links. Be proactive towards your anxiety. Don't be a sitting duck. Don't just wait for the motivation. Don't wait for it to just go away whenever you go to sleep. I waited for years, so I suffered for years. When I started being proactive and doing things for my anxiety, symptoms like my heart rate, that went away. Okay, symptoms like chest pain, headaches, nausea, numbness, tingling, guess what? They magically started to disappear because I was on the offensive instead of always being afraid, curling into a ball like I did. So that's kind of like my recovery in a nutshell, okay? So, fast heart rate. When I first had my panic attack, which lasted 6 hours, one of the first things that I noticed was my heart. I became very conscious of it. It kind of flipped me out. And then bam, the adrenaline hit. Now, mind you, my anxiety had been building probably for about a year before this happened. I was drinking, I was partying, I was smoking, I was eating unhealthy, I wasn't working out, I wasn't where I needed to be in my life. I had so much potential, but I wasn't living it. I had dropped out of school. I was associating with people that I never thought I would associate with. So after 2 days of a hardcore bender where I was drinking and smoking like a choo-choo train, I came back home. I was trying to go to sleep, noticed the heart rate, bam, the adrenaline hit, bam, the panic, numbness, tingling, nausea. I had a headache, tremors, chest pain. So I looked up these symptoms on Google, which I don't want you guys to do. If you're Googling, please stop. It's one of my biggest things, right? No Googling. And since I was already in that negative frame of mind, I typed in fast heart rate and chest pain, and what comes back? Heart attack. So this is when my cardiophobia started. I started fearing that I had problems with my heart. I thought I was having heart attacks throughout the day, which they were just panic attacks. But my heart rate from that point on was pretty much high for the next 2 to 2.5 years. So with that being said, anxiety kicked my butt. Anxiety kicked my butt. I was always in fear. And then I started to check my vitals all the time, okay? If you're doing this, please stop, okay? If you want to recover from anxiety, health anxiety, panic disorder, you got to get away from the numbers. I was always checking my vitals. So I was doing this primarily, feeling on my chest. I would put my fingers on my wrists. I was also checking my blood pressure numbers all the time. So I'd go to Walgreens or Walmart. You've heard me tell that story a million times, but I would use their blood pressure machines to find that out. I would pretty much do anything to figure out what my vitals were, and it kept me in a constant state of fear. I was never happy with the numbers that I was getting. I had anticipatory anxiety like many of you, so you didn't want to get bad numbers, so you got bad numbers. I had white coat syndrome, and a lot of you have this. Every time you go to the doctor and you know they're about to check your heart rate with that oxygen pulse monitor thing, your heart rate, it's like you can feel it just escalate and get faster and faster, and then you look at your heart rate, it's like 125, 130, and the doctor's like, you okay? You feeling all right? And they freak you out. Your blood pressure ends up being 140, 150 over 100. And they're like, do you have a history of high blood pressure? Do you have any heart issues? And you're like, no, I have anxiety. So I had white coat syndrome, which was actually one of the last things to fade with my anxiety. It's a very strong association. But I'll go ahead and give you my numbers. This is kind of what I dealt with. Now, it doesn't mean this is you, okay? So I know this can encourage some of you or discourage you, but I'm going to give you some initial reassurance from a guy that suffered from bad anxiety about how bad my heart rate numbers were, okay? Now, at rest, and I'm not talking about sleeping. I'm talking about when I woke up, opened my eyes, and started my day. At rest, usually my heart rate was going to be anywhere between 95 to like 115, 120. That's fast for not doing anything. I'm talking about sitting on the couch, not doing anything. Now, the minute I got moderately anxious, it's getting higher than that, okay? Whenever I have a little bit of anxiety, if I feel like I'm having a symptom of this or symptom of that, if I'm Googling, my numbers are gonna start to creep up, all right? So we're talking about, 130 to 140-ish, right around in that ballpark. But if I was having panic, we're talking about 160 to 180 plus. That's extremely fast. And I dealt with that for years, guys. So I know one of the worries that I had towards the end of my anxiety was like, man, is my heart weaker now because of how fast it's been beating? But I want you guys to know, if you've been checked out by a doctor, if you gotten your EKG, if you gotten your blood work, all the testing that you needed to get done, some of you have seen specialists, right? Where you've gotten stress tests, the echo, cardiogram thing, your structure of your heart is completely fine. The heart is a very resilient and strong muscle, okay? It's very powerful. It can take a huge beating, okay? So if I had those numbers for years and years and years and it didn't do anything to me, many of you are going to be just fine. You have to start putting your faith into professionals when they tell you that your heart is okay. I know that's hard to do. I had a lot of distrust, a lot of paranoia when it came to doctors and testing, and I was always afraid of being misdiagnosed. But I want you to get away, guys, from the constant need of external reassurance, whether that be the constant doctor visits, the constant testing, checking your vitals all throughout the day. Each of these things are chains that are holding you down. Even asking family and friends all day if you're okay, if you're gonna make it, if you're gonna be alive, or am I gonna wake up tomorrow? These kind of things. You have to get away from the external reassurance and start to build the internal reassurance. And I know that's difficult. It's not easy. It's hard. It's tough. Like I said, I struggled for years. 5 total. That last year was recovery, but it was tough, man. Overcoming anxiety, health anxiety, and panic attacks. God, it was a real struggle. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. So remember, patience, consistency, and strategy, which my coaching and some of the tips down below, that'll help you with the strategy part. But if you don't stick with it, it's gonna be a tough battle. But fast heart rate, guys, is very, very common with anxiety. It's probably the most common symptom of anxiety. If you're going into fight or flight, your body wants to get away, okay, from a tiger, or it wants to fight one off. We're just using a tiger for example, okay? It could be a bear, it could be a shooter, a robber, whatever. It could be anything. It could be Shrek coming after you, all right? So your heart is beating faster so it can circulate blood throughout your body to provide, obviously, oxygen and blood to those parts of your body that you got to use to get away or fight. So that's what's happening. That's what happens when you have panic, okay? You're in fight or flight. You're trying to run or get away. So why would you have a slow heart rate if a tiger's coming after you? Something would be really messed up if that was how it worked, unless it was sneaking up on you. But if you see one charging at you, your heart's going to start pumping in anticipation to run or fight, okay? The problem is when you have panic, there's nothing obvious around you that's dangerous. And you don't have to have panic for you to be close, for your heart to be pumping pretty good, like I said, in that 95 to 125 range. So a lot of you guys are having numbers that are even lower than that. Some of you actually get anxious when you have a low heart rate. I'll probably make a separate video about that. I think you guys are lucky to have low heart rates, but I can understand how the negativity will start to make you really question what's going on when your heart gets really, really slow. I think might have been just an occasional time or two where my heart rate, whenever I saw it, was like in the low 60s, and I was like, damn, is it just gonna stop? So I can understand how many people struggle with that also. But hopefully I was able to give some of you guys reassurance by giving you some of my numbers. My numbers got crazy high, and they were like that for years. So you're not alone if you deal with that. You're definitely not alone. You're not alone with most of the symptoms that you're dealing with. But guys, I encourage you to keep fighting and keep working on your anxiety. Don't take any breaks. Anxiety's not going to take a break on you. So don't let up, okay? Don't let up. Don't get comfortable. Don't think just because you had a good couple days that it's all done. You know what I mean? Like, you got to change your lifestyle for good. You got to convince your subconscious, that you're better now, that whatever caused your anxiety, you're past it, right? So I love you all. Remember to subscribe so you can keep getting these videos whenever I put them out. Still debating on doing 2 uploads a day. I'm going to let you guys know. I'm still on the fence about that. But remember, the description down below has tons of resources and tips, my coaching info, therapy info, all that stuff's down below. See a therapist if you haven't, okay? They're a professional. They can, you need to start out with a diagnosis and then go from there. I can't do that with these videos, obviously, and I'm not a mental health professional. I'm a life coach. But I'm telling you guys, if I could recover, many of you can too. It just takes time. It takes time. But I love you all. Until next time, keep fighting.